Welcome to 5% Radio, where it's all about learning like no one else today so you can live like no one else tomorrow. Please be sure to share and subscribe. What is up, 5%ers, and welcome back to another episode of the 5% Radio Podcast. Today, in episode number 70, I want to talk to you about the power of naive belief. A couple key takeaways that you can expect to find in this episode would be learning why pre-playing is more important than replaying, how conventional wisdom and what most people think can hold us back, and the value of intentional naivete. It's been said that belief is the thermostat that regulates what we achieve in life. And there's a common saying that people will say, well, ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss. But I want to submit to you a case for the fact that ignorance is not bliss, but ignorance, intentional ignorance, that is, can be belief. So let's go ahead and dive into a story here that illustrates all these points, and then we'll pull out some key takeaways from this. So a couple thousand years ago, man gets this crazy idea in his head that, hey, I think we can run the 4-minute mile. So they were already running miles and they were having events, and obviously people have done competitions and sports and all that kind of stuff, whether it was organized or unorganized. Like, people have been competitive and they've been wanting to push limits, I think, since the beginning of time, because it's just the way that we're wired. If I can do 1, then I want to do 2. If I can do 2, then I want to do 3. If I can do a small one, then I want to do a medium. Like, if I can pick up this, then maybe I can pick up that. Like, it's just the way that we're wired to want more. I don't think we're wired to be complacent whatsoever. And you see that because even if people aren't chasing their own dreams, they're always admiring and they enjoy watching people that are doing better, that are trying to intentionally grow in areas. So a couple thousand BC, man gets this crazy idea to run the 4-minute mile, right? And the Greeks started doing the Olympics. I think the Olympics started in like 776 BC, based on what I can find. So, I mean, years and years and years ago, a couple thousand years BC. But before that, they had already been, and I know that 776 BC is not a couple thousand years, but even before that, they were already trying to run what was called the 4-minute mile. So they were already trying to run a set distance in this certain amount of time, and they were having a hard time with it. So this became an event in the Olympics. The mile run became an event, and they had coliseums and everything else back then, because if you look at Rome, they had, you hear bread and circus, but basically they had entertainment, and they would have Caesar and the rulers and all this stuff. They would get together and they would watch the games and they would watch events happen in these coliseums. So they had been trying to run the 4-minute mile, and then they started the Olympics and it was officially organized, and they were still trying to run the 4-minute mile and they were having no success. So for nearly 500 years, runners would train each year to break the 4-minute mile and fail over and over and over and over again. And eventually, because they had so much failure, they had so many different attempts with no success, the philosophers and the thinkers and the wise men got together and they began to more or less rationalize away the fact that probably, there's no possible way that you can run the 4-minute mile. And they came up with all these ideas and these reasons why, and it became a belief that you literally could not do this. So they said, the lungs couldn't handle it. They just couldn't take in that much air, and they would burst, and people would continually try this over and over and over again. But every single time someone failed, it became a more strongly cemented belief that, hey, this is not possible. And, again, we'll reason away why it's not possible. No one's ever done it, therefore it's probably not going to happen. So, hey, it's totally okay that you failed. And they tried all kinds of different stuff. Get a load of this. They tried running naked for less wind resistance. So imagine this being a spectator. You're at the Olympics, like, hey, look, they got the mile run, and a bunch of naked dudes come out. Okay, so they tried that for less wind resistance. Hey, they're going to be more aerodynamic. Again, these philosophers, all these wise guys, they're thinking things up, like, maybe this will work. Then they tried olive oil for lubrication. Like, maybe if they would just be a little more lubricated, they could move a little bit faster, and they would be able to attain this 4-minute mile record. Maybe that would work. Well, that didn't work. So naked didn't work. Well, okay, that's a bummer. Olive oil didn't work. Well, okay, whatever. Maybe we can try having hungry lions chase them. Yeah, I'm not kidding here. So they had hungry lions chase some of the runners. Well, Stubby did not run again. True story. They tried that, and it did not go well. But so we've tried running naked. We've tried olive oil. We've tried hungry lions chasing us. And then now we get into the modern Olympics. They're still trying. It had been, a couple thousand years now. They're still trying, still trying, still trying. No one had hit it. So think about all of the history that had been leading up to this, all of the proof that you could look back on and say, well, it's probably not possible because look how many years people have tried it. Do I really think that I'm better than all the runners that have lived since XYZ date? Well, probably not. I probably can't make this happen. And again, people start trying over and over and over, and it was believed, again, even now in modern times, to be medically impossible. Doctors believed that the heart would explode because it couldn't handle that kind of blood volume at that pace and all this different stuff. And so it used to be the lungs. Now they're like, oh, no, it's not the lungs. Like that'd be silly, but their hearts would definitely explode. So because it had been impossible for over 2,500 years, common consensus was believed that it would never happen until an Oxford medical student in England realizes that, you know what, he's thinking, okay, pretty much any day I go to the track, I can run a sub 60 quarter mile. So 400 meters, I can do that in less than a minute. Most days, because this guy was a track athlete who specialized in running the 800 meter and the 1500 meter, which is a super weird distance. So that's one straight stretch of the track, less than a mile if you're not a track athlete or if you've never been to a track. So basically one football field, less than a mile. Those were his two events. So basically he ran the half mile and pretty much we'll call it the mile. Those were his track events. And he realized that pretty much on any given day, I can run a sub 60 quarter mile. Most days I can run 2 sub 60 quarter miles back to back. So I could run a half mile in less than 2 minutes. And sometimes I can even run 3/4 of a mile or 3 laps around the track. I can run 1,200 meters in less than 60 seconds per quarter mile. So I think this should be possible. I mean, if I can get 75% of the way there, I think this could probably be possible. And think about this. He's a medical student, so he understands the body. So he would know that it's absolute hogwash, that the heart's going to explode or that the lungs can't take it. Like, he would understand this. And he would have already had times that proved to him, like, hey, if I can do half of this, I can probably do the whole thing. People tell this guy, hey, don't get your hopes up. People have already tried and failed. Now, think about being this guy. So you've got the power of naive belief. You're like, you know what? I think I can do it. I know that no one else could. I know that up until now, no one else has done this. I know what people believe. I know that the common consensus and conventional wisdom would say that there's no way that anyone could do this. And they would they would replay all the past to me. They would give me the evidence why, and they would feed me this negativity. But ignorance is belief, the power of naive belief, the power of the fact that I believe that I can do it regardless of what anyone else has told me, regardless of who's tried and failed, regardless of what people believe to be the truth, regardless of the perception that this is absolutely physically impossible. I believe it could happen. I believe that I could do it. I don't have to believe that other runners could do it, but I believe in general it's possible. And because I believe that, I'm going to try. I'm going to absolutely give it my best. And he began to train for this. Now, he was already a half mile and more or less mile specialist. So this guy was already really, 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 really good at running fast times for short distances. So he's not necessarily a sprinter, but he's like a mid-level athlete. So there's like sprinters, which would be, 100s, 200s, 400s, maybe an 800 meter, and then there's mid-distance guys. So he ran the half mile and the mile. Then there was long-distance guys who obviously did cross-country and things like that, and they ran 5Ks and 7Ks and 10Ks and all this other stuff. But so he was already someone who specialized in this. Now think about this. This is no different than all of the other runners that have ever tried this. They were also athletes who specialized in this exact same event. The people who competed at the Olympics, starting all the way back in 776 BC, were also track athletes, so to speak. They were also runners. They also train. So he begins training for this. And he got this idea that, you know what, maybe I could have a jackrabbit training partner, or maybe 2 different jackrabbits, so to speak. And we all know how this is. You're on the highway and you're in the fast lane, and someone flies up behind you, and there's an initial instinct of like, this person's crazy. People that drive slower than you are idiots, and people that drive faster than you are jerks. You've probably heard this, but so this guy flies up behind you on the highway, and you're like, man, this is ridiculous. And then you realize, ding, like, hey, you know what? If I get over, this guy's going faster than me. I can follow him, and he'll get pulled over first. So this is the idea basically that Roger Bannister had for running. He wanted the jackrabbit or a pacer. He wanted someone who was going to be out in front of him that could run the exact time that he needed. He could match this person stride for the run, for a portion of the run. He's like, you know what, if I can do 1 lap or 2 laps or 3 laps on a regular pace, if I can get someone to hold that pace, then all I would have to do really is be concerned about the last mile. All I would have to do is run the last mile, and I would be able to break history. I would be able to make history and break all these records that have never been done. Thousands of people have tried. Okay, so I need a jackrabbit. I need a person that can train with me. So he gets this guy to train with him, and this guy basically tells him, like, hey, look, I'll get you 3 laps. I'll get you these 2 guys. I'll run this lap and I'll run these laps and we'll train together. But basically, we'll give everything we have. I can't do the whole thing with you, man. Like, there's no possible way I can do the whole thing. I'm not that fast, but I know that I can do 1 or 2 or 3 laps with you. So, okay, we begin to train over and over and over. And he runs sub 60 quarters. He runs sub 2 minute half miles. So they're realizing, like, okay, I think this can be done physically. There's no reason that it can't be done. We just have to continue to train again. Power of naive belief. He was not willing to accept the common consensus that, okay, this is impossible. Your heart's going to explode. Think about this. If he had gone to the track every day running, how hard would he have pushed if he had in the back of his mind replaying all the history? Oh, man, all these people have failed. And if he got to the track every single day like, oh, well, hopefully today's not the day my heart explodes. Like, he ignored all of that. Ignorance is bliss? No, ignorance is belief. He had intentional ignorance. I'm going to forget all of that, and I'm just going to go out and do my best to make this happen. So he begins to train, and he realized, I'll be 60 seconds away from making history if I can just get these 3 laps done with my jackrabbit training partners. And on May 6th of 1954 at Oxford University's Iffley Road track, they began to run. Now, this day was not ideal. The weather was bad. The wind was bad. All these different things. They're like, you know what? We don't think today's a good day. We're going to call it off. This and that. It's not a good idea. You shouldn't try it today. And he's like, dude, I'm doing it. I'm ready. I've trained. I believe. Like, I'm doing this right now. And they begin the event. So it was almost called off, but this young man was ready to make history again. More people like, I don't think it's a good idea. Like, not only we don't think it can be done, but I don't think today's good. And I think of all days that you shouldn't do it today. And he's like, you know what? Forget it. All these people were there. They were ready, they're filming it, and he begins to run. Jackrabbit training partner runs with him first lap. They're going stride for stride, sub 60 quarters, stride for stride. Second lap done. They're over halfway there, and they're still on track for time. Third lap, Jackrabbit runs with him. Now that Jackrabbit, the guy that ran the third lap with him, just collapsed. I mean, like, got just past the line for the third lap and just absolutely collapsed. Total exhaustion. And Roger Bannister, whose name you probably have heard by now, knows that he is 60 seconds away. He's less than 1 minute away from breaking thousands of years of attempted and failed records, from making history, from doing what philosophers years ago in the BC times believed to be impossible because the lungs couldn't take in that much air, they would burst. He was 60 seconds away from breaking this record that even now modern-day scientists believe, well, the heart would explode if that happened. Think about all the other people who had heard about this, like, yeah, someone else is trying it again, because they had been trying to break this. So some people believed because some people were already training, but no one believed as much as Bannister did because he had not been replaying the past and going over all the things that had failed before and going over the reasons that he couldn't and going over, well, you know, common knowledge would say this and history would say this and here's the facts and the figures, because the facts don't matter. If you've got a dream, if you've got a vision, absolutely ignore what people, well, it's impossible because of, like, forget that. He began to pre-play. He began to visualize over and over and over. And every single time he would run, I guarantee every single track workout, he was thinking about the day that he got on the track for the last time to attempt this 4-minute mile record. And he understood one thing about the next 60 seconds, that fourth lap, it was going to be the most painful minute of his life. He understood, because he was not just running to break a record that physically had not been broken. He was running to break a mental barrier. He was running with the weight of thousands of years of limiting beliefs on his back. He was running with the fact that thousands of people had tried and failed over and over and over again, but he kept running. He was attempting to break something that was not only believed to be physically impossible, but also a huge mental barrier of thousands of people and thousands of years that had tried and failed all these different methods. And was he really any different than them? Well, no, but he had the power of naive belief. And if you watch the video, you can almost sense the elation, just that he knows, the excitement that he knows he's going to do it. He throws his head back and he's running and running and running, and he makes it over the line. And it's not like nowadays where there was a digital, stopwatch going again. This is May 6, 1954. So he runs over the line and probably just about passes out from the absolute exertion. And then the time comes across the loudspeaker. The time is 3, and then it was just absolutely drowned out by applause and cheering and just this elation of the crowd, just like he did it. But his time was 3:59.4. So he was 0.60 milliseconds away. So 6 milliseconds away from missing the time, but he made it happen. A couple things that you can look at from this: he refused to accept the word impossible and intentionally developed and fed and nurtured and grew his own belief, refusing to accept what others believe to be reality. See, reality for others does not have to be reality for you. If someone thinks, well, there's no way that you can make that much money, and that's not your reality, and you believe that you can, then go after it and work on it and try. Because again, thousands of years, no one had ever done it. Guess what? He did it. Look at companies like Apple, first $1 trillion company. How many people would have ever believed, oh yeah, no one's ever going to go, there's never going to be $1 billion company, and then there's $1 billion companies. There's never going to be $1 trillion company, and then there are. There's all of these records that are constantly getting broken, weightlifting records and running records and business records and how much money is made in one day and all this kind of stuff. I just watched a video a few days ago of how long it takes a company to make $1 million, and it went through all these companies like Walmart and Amazon and Wayfair and Apple and, all of these different companies. And some of those companies were less than 50 seconds to do $1 million in sales. There was probably a time when people were like, man, if you made $1 million in a year, that'd be absolutely crazy. But again, belief and just over and over and over and trying and growing and trying and growing. And like I talked about in episode 16, I believe it was, PDCA, make a plan, do the plan, check the plan, adjust the plan. Orrin Woodward's formula for basically that's how you succeed in things is you PDCA, plan, do, check, adjust, and you're constantly trying to get better. But Roger Bannister hits the 4-minute mile. And then here's the crazy thing, guys. Within a year, so think about how many years had gone by and no one had ever broken this. People had tried and failed. And after 1 year of him proving it was possible, after people having external belief, it's not just the internal belief that people are training for it, you know what, I think I can do this, but now they have something to replay. Because before he had negative history to replay. Oh, it's not possible. And he had to ignore that, block all of that out, just like you have to for your personal goals, just like you have to look at your family and say, generationally, no one's ever done X, Y, Z, but I'm going to. I don't know what that is for you. I don't know what that 5% life for you is. That may be financial freedom like I'm chasing and like this show is about, the 5% life. 95% of people live and die working jobs they don't love, and they're stuck and they work 100,000 hours and they retire, or they're dead, disabled, or broke by the time they're 65. That it may be finances for you, but also the 5% life for you may be the fact that no one in your family tree has stayed married. No one in your family tree has had a good relationship with their kids. No one in your family tree has ever been healthy. No one in your family tree has ever been anything besides broke and miserable. No one has ever made anything of their lives. And you might be the person who's like, you know what, it's going to be different, and it starts with me. Within 1 year of this man pushing the limits and having naive belief and genuinely understanding that I believe that I can do this, regardless of what has happened in the past, within 12 months, guess how many other runners broke the 4-minute mile barrier? 37. 37 guys. After thousands of years and thousands of people that attempted and tried this and failed. But then one man does it. One guy proves, not only do I believe it's possible inwardly, but outwardly I'm going to give other people evidence that this can be done. And because it can be done, it should be done. And once it has been done, other people have belief. They have permission, so to speak, to say, you know what, if he did it, I can do it. 37 other people now had enough belief that they were able to make it happen. Because think about how many people got to that third lap, so to speak, and quit. How many people got almost there and then realized, you know what, it's not going to happen for me. It's never happened for anyone else, and it's okay because everyone else has failed. And if I fail, I'm no different than everyone else. I'm no better. I'm no worse. But he was the person that said, you know what, I believe it's possible. If it's possible, it's necessary to try. And if I try it and I believe I can make it happen, then I believe if I continually try enough, I will make it happen. And I'm wrapping up here, but I want you to understand a couple things. Again, going back to the quote at the beginning, belief is a thermostat that regulates what we accomplish in life, what we achieve in life. There's two kinds of people. You can be a thermostat, you can dictate the temperature of your life, or you can be a thermometer. 95% of people in the world are thermometers. They'll tell you how things are. They're victims of circumstance. They'll tell you why things are bad. They'll tell you the temperature in the room, so to speak, of their life. But they won't dictate it. They won't say, I'm personally responsible for everything that happens, and I'm going to make it happen. If I want to change, then I'm going over to the thermostat of my life, my mind, and I will make the change myself. I'm not just going to tell you why I can't or why things are bad or what the evidence is. So he began to control the thermostat of his life and his belief. He also decided, instead of replaying the past, all the garbage, all the crap that people had believed for thousands of years, for literally millennia, like for all this time, instead of replaying that and talking about and thinking about him and believing why it wasn't possible, he began to think about and talk about and believe and visualize every single day at the track. Guarantee he was thinking about it. He began to pre-play the victory, not replay the failures. Forget what you've tried in the past. Forget what hasn't worked. Forget the limitations. Try again for the first time. What do you mean? It's not the first. Try again for the first time with the belief that you had the first time that you ever tried something, before you realized that failure was most likely in this thing, before you realized that no one had done it in your family, before you realized that you had never been able to accomplish XYZ. Try again for the first time. Decide to be the thermostat. Dictate your own temperature in life. Decide to pre-play the victory. Decide to believe above all other circumstances, above what's happened in the past, above all the evidence, beyond everything you could point to and say, here's why it can't happen. Decide that you are going to make it happen, that you are going to have the power of naive belief. After he did this, there's a term now known as the banister effect. Because 37 other people, after he had opened the door, after he had made the way, after he had led, 37 other people then went and broke that record. And now there's hundreds and thousands of people that have broken the 4-minute mile because one man did it. Again, the banister effect. One person did it, and others finally believe that it's possible. That can be you. You can be the Roger Bannister of your industry, of your career, of your field, of whatever other people think is impossible. If you do it, others will have permission to do it themselves. So go out and create a banister effect in whatever you do. Use the power of naive belief. Stop replaying. Begin pre-playing. Be the thermostat, not the thermometer. And I'll talk to you in episode 71.